Well, after 36 years of running a school, I've learned something. The most dangerous person in any difficult conversation isn't the loud one. It isn't the angry one. It's the person who thinks they already know how the story ends. And my daughter-in-law, Lisa, thought she knew exactly how this story was going to end. Turns out, she was dead wrong. My name is Josh Cook. I'm 68 years old, retired, and for most of my life, I worked in education. I started as a classroom teacher, worked my way up to assistant principal, then eventually became principal of a high school in Greenville, South Carolina. 36 years, 3.5 decades of solving problems, handling conflicts, and sitting across from people who believed they had all the leverage. By the time I retired in 2021, I figured I'd seen every version of human behavior there was. I hadn't, because retirement had one more lesson waiting for me, and it came wrapped in family. My wife, Patricia, Pat to everyone who knew her, passed away in October 2022 after a long illness. We've been married for 41 years. 41. Think about that for a second. When you spent 4 decades building a life with someone, the silence they leave behind isn't just quiet. It's physical. You feel it in the empty chair, the untouched coffee mug, the side of the bed that suddenly stays perfectly made. Pat handled her illness the same way she handled everything else, with grace. She spent nearly 3 decades as a librarian and honestly believed every problem in life could be managed if you stayed organized and kept your voice calm. Most of the time, she was right. After the funeral, my son Nathan came over, put a hand on my shoulder, looked me straight in the eye, and said something that sounded like love. "Dad, come stay with us. We've got room. You shouldn't be alone." At that moment, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He's my son. So I sold the house Pat and I had shared for 33 years, packed up the memories, packed up the photographs, packed up the life we'd built together, and moved in with Nathan and his wife Lisa. Looking back now, that was the moment everything changed. The first few months were okay. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay. You know that awkward feeling when you're technically welcome somewhere, but never quite feel like you belong? Yeah, it was a lot like that. We ate dinner together most nights, had polite conversations, stayed in safe territory. Nobody argued. Nobody connected deeply either. We just sort of existed around each other. Lisa ran the house with military precision. Every schedule, every bill, every cabinet, every conversation. Everything had a place. And honestly, I didn't mind. I wasn't trying to take over anybody's home. I just wanted peace. So I stayed out of the way. But here's the thing. I've never been the type of person who sits around doing nothing. If something is broken, I fix it. Always have. Always will. The kitchen faucet had been dripping for months. Fixed it. The gutters were clogged. Cleaned them. Loose banister on the back steps. Handled. A fence repair that would have cost hundreds? Took care of it myself. No complaints. No invoices. No expectations. Just helping. Because that's what family does. I also bought my own groceries. Paid my own expenses. Covered my own gas. Never asked them for spending money. Never borrowed a dime. And I want to make something crystal clear. Because this part matters. I was not a burden. Not even close. I was a retired principal with a pension, savings, experience, and a lifetime habit of solving problems instead of creating them. In fact, I was probably the most useful person in that house. What I didn't realize was that Lisa had already noticed that too. She just had a very different idea about how my usefulness should benefit her. Then came February 6th, 2024, a Tuesday. And trust me, that's a date I'll never forget. Earlier that afternoon, I spent several hours repainting the trim on their backyard fence. A contractor had quoted around $400 for the job. I knocked it out myself for less than $30 in supplies. Came inside, washed the paint off my hands, grabbed a glass of water, sat down at the kitchen table, and that's when Lisa walked in. Now here's something you learn after decades in administration. You can tell when someone has rehearsed a conversation. The body language gives it away. The timing, the expression, the way they sit down. Lisa pulled out the chair directly across from me, folded her hands, looked me in the eye, and immediately I knew this wasn't a casual conversation. This was a planned operation. Josh, not Dad, not a greeting, just Josh. I need to talk to you about the financial arrangement here. Financial arrangement? I remember setting my glass down and thinking, well, this ought to be interesting. What arrangement? I asked. She took a breath. The kind people take when they're about to deliver a speech they've practiced in the mirror. You've been living here for a year. No rent. No utilities. No financial contribution. I stared at her, then smiled, because honestly I thought she was joking. I buy my own groceries. I pay my own expenses. And I literally painted your fence today. Nothing. No acknowledgement. No appreciation. Nothing. Instead, she leaned forward slightly and said something that stopped me cold. You're sitting on $187,000. Exactly. To the dollar. And right then I learned something. Nathan had told her. My own son had told her exactly how much money I had saved over a lifetime. That hit harder than I expected. Not because of the money, because of what it meant. People don't memorize numbers like that unless they've been thinking about them. A lot. I kept my face calm. Years of experience. Inside, different story. That money is my retirement. I said, Pat, and I spent decades building that. Lisa nodded, then delivered the line she'd clearly been waiting to say. And the moment those words left her mouth, I knew this family was about to change forever. Lisa folded her hands on the table and looked at me like someone presenting a deal that couldn't possibly be refused. Then she said it. We'd like you to contribute $120,000 toward the household. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. $120,000. Not 12, not 20, 120,000. She even had a label ready for it. Think of it as a mortgage investment. A mortgage investment. Funny how people come up with professional-sounding names when they're asking for money that doesn't belong to them. I looked at her, really looked at her, and after 36 years of dealing with difficult conversations, I recognized exactly what was happening. This wasn't a discussion. This wasn't a request. This was a power move. Then came the part she'd obviously rehearsed the most, because every ultimatum has two parts. The request and the threat. If that's not something you're willing to do, she said carefully, then maybe it's time for you to find somewhere else to live. There it was. No confusion. No misunderstanding. No room for interpretation. Pay up or move out. Outside, kids were playing basketball. A car rolled slowly down the street. Life kept moving. But inside that kitchen, everything had changed. Now here's the thing. Most people expect a reaction. They expect anger, shock, fear, begging, negotiation, something, anything. What they don't expect is calm, and calm is dangerous. I finished my glass of water, walked to the sink, rinsed it, placed it in the drying rack, then looked at her. Thank you for letting me know. That's all I said. Then I walked away. Behind me, I heard her voice. Josh, we should finish this conversation. But the conversation was already finished. She just didn't know it yet. That night, I sat in my room holding a photograph of Pat. The same picture I'd carried with me when I moved into that house. She was laughing in the photo, looking off camera, completely unaware she'd one day become the voice inside my head, helping me make hard decisions. Well, Pat, I said quietly, looks like I'm house hunting. And somehow, I think she would have laughed. The next morning, I called my oldest friend, Ray. Every man needs a Ray. You know the type. The guy who'll help you move a couch, help you fix a roof, help you bury a bad memory, and never ask questions until you're ready. After hearing the story, Ray was silent for several seconds. Then he said something that made me laugh. She gave you an ultimatum with spreadsheet energy. Pretty much. By the end of the call, I had a realtor's number. 3 days later, I was looking at houses. And that's when something unexpected happened. The third house stopped me in my tracks. Small craftsman home. 2 bedrooms. Quiet street. Needed some work, which honestly felt familiar. But that's not why I loved it. The moment I stepped onto the porch, I thought of Pat. Years earlier, we'd walked that neighborhood together. She used to point at houses just like that one, not because she wanted them, because she admired them. I stood there looking at the yard and suddenly felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Peace. Real peace. Not borrowed peace. Not temporary peace. Mine. I called a realtor. Make the offer. A couple hours later she called back. Josh, it's yours. Yours. That word hit differently. After spending a year feeling like a guest in somebody else's life, having something that was completely mine again felt incredible. I told Nathan that evening. His face dropped instantly, like a guy who knew exactly what was happening but had convinced himself it wouldn't. Dad, you didn't have to do that. I nodded. Maybe. Then I looked at him. Neither did she. The room went quiet, because deep down, we both knew it was true. Moving day arrived. Ray showed up his truck and enough bad jokes to fill 3 lifetimes. We loaded everything in under 2 hours. Turns out, when you've already lost the love of your life, you don't hold on to much stuff. Only the things that matter. Pat's picture, her glasses, my books, my tools, a lifetime of memories. Nathan carried a couple boxes. Lisa never came outside. I didn't judge her for it. Some people can't watch the consequences of their own choices happen in real time. Right before I got into Ray's truck, Nathan stopped me. You didn't have to leave. I looked at him, then said the only thing that needed saying. Neither did she, and we drove away. I never looked back. Now, if this were one of those revenge stories on the internet, this would be where I tell you everything fell apart for them immediately. But real life doesn't work that way. Real life takes its time. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Nathan, and the second I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong. Big commercial account. Lost. Massive financial hit. Bonus gone. Pressure from management. The kind of situation that keeps people awake at night. Finally, he got to the point. Dad, we need help. There it was. The moment Lisa thought she had prepared for months earlier. The moment she believed would eventually force me to open my wallet. But here's what nobody understands about self-respect. It's not anger. It's boundaries. And boundaries matter. I listened carefully. Then I said, Nathan, I love you. I love your kids. And that will never change. A pause. My savings are still mine. Another pause. Longer this time. But, and that's the important part, but I'll help you figure this out. I'll give you my time, my experience, my advice. I'll sit at the table and help you build a plan. What I won't do is write a check. Silence. Then a question I'll never forget. Why would you help us after everything? Because he's my son. That's why. Because forgiveness and surrender are not the same thing. You can forgive someone without handing them control. You can love someone without funding their mistakes. And that's exactly what I did. The following Sunday, I walked back into that house. The same kitchen, the same table, the same chairs. But everything felt different. Lisa looked nervous, not defensive, not confident, nervous. Then she surprised me. What I said was wrong. No excuses, no justifications, no blaming stress, just accountability. For the next 2 hours, what I said was wrong. Build a plan. Honestly, budget cuts, that matter. Business recovery steps, financial priorities, difficult conversations they needed to have, a path forward. Notice what I didn't do. I didn't rescue them. I didn't write checks. I didn't sacrifice my future. I simply helped, the same way I'd spent my whole life helping. Only this time, the boundaries stayed in place. When I left that afternoon, Nathan walked me to my car. He shook my hand, then held it a little longer than usual, the way men do when emotions show up, but words don't. Thank you, Dad. I smiled. Take care of your family. A few weeks have passed since then. The funny thing? Life is good. Really good. I have my own home, my own space, my own peace. My grandson still visits. My granddaughter still sends drawings. And every Sunday evening, I walk to the neighborhood Pat loved. Sometimes I think about that conversation with Lisa, the one she thought she had already won. The one she planned for, rehearsed, prepared. Because that's the thing about life. The people who think they already know the ending are usually the ones most surprised by it. Back on February 6th, after Lisa gave me her ultimatum, I wrote 2 words in my journal. Just 2. Bought house. That's it. Bought house. Because the truth is, the conversation was over long before she realized it. And today, at 68 years old, living in a home that's truly mine, walking streets my wife loved, surrounded by people who choose to be in my life instead of managing me, I can honestly say something I haven't been able to say in a very long time. Life feels good again. And sometimes that's the best ending of all.
Thanks for watching my video.